Some scriptures say, well, where there's no vision, the people will perish. Whatever your scriptures are. Really, do you have no vision? If you ask the average person, you want to be happy or sad? What's your vision? They'd say, I want to be happy. You want to be rich or poor? Most people say, I'd like to be rich. Do you want to contribute or make no difference in the world? I want to contribute. Do you want beautiful memories or no memories? I want memories. So there's a vision. Our issue is depth perception. We think it's further away than it is. And because we think it's so far away, Jay, we create patterns and behaviors in our life that perpetually keep it there.
Ooh.
And that's what we do in our life. But what if that's the great lie of life? And what if the truth is that you're one relationship away, one meeting away, one conversation, one podcast, one interview, one new thought, one new emotion, one new tactic or strategy away from completely changing the trajectory of your life. And everyone that you and I know that we both work with, that we're blessed to work with in our lives, the truth is it was one decision, one meeting, one extra rep, one more phone call, one thing they did that changed their trajectory. And then the question then becomes, how do I do it? And so the strategies are in the book, but conceptually, that's 100% how you change your life. What happens is when you live with an expectation that these one mores exist, the reticular activating system in your mind filters them into your awareness. I call it the matrix in the second chapter of the book. When you wake up believing, hey, I'm one decision away, I'm one meeting away, one relationship away, that's not hokey. Your mind begins to filter the people, places, and things into your awareness. You develop something called sensory acuity. You hear conversations you weren't hearing. We've all had that experience where we're on an airplane, I can't stop hearing these people over here. Or you walk in a loud room, but you can hear your own name auditorily over all the other names in the room. That's because it's important to you and it matters. You see things. And so when something becomes important to you and you believe it to be true, the RAS goes to proving it for you. And where I learned this, ironically, I talk about it in the book, is my father was an alcoholic and had tried to get sober many, many times. And I'll never forget it, Jay. We were driving to a baseball game of mine. My dad started crying. I'd never seen my dad cry before. And he pulls the car over, and he still isn't looking at me, but he's crying, and he says, Eddie, and then he turns to me and he goes, I'm gonna try to get sober. And I'll never forget this, brother. He goes, one more time. Wow. And I said, really, Daddy? He goes, I'm gonna give it one more try. And I said to him, I said, why would this be any different this time? And he said, never said this to me before. He goes, because I love you and you deserve it, Father, you can be proud of, and you can't be proud of me right now. And I think every great thing we do in life is one away, but it's also born from love. To talk about your book, when you love people or you love something so deeply, if that love is greater than what the obstacles might be, now you got a shot to do it. Then my dad gets sober. He comes home from rehab. I say, Daddy, are you never gonna drink again? And he said, I can't promise you that. I can promise you I'm not gonna drink for one more day at a time.
Wow.
And he lasted the rest of his life stacking those one more days up. And so I know the power of one more. And Jay, the other thing, I also know humans can change. I watched my hero do it. I watched my dad live my first 15 years. Saw him in a lot of fights.
Wow.
A lot of lying, a lot of difficult times. And then I saw this man transform. And in life, we're most qualified to help the person we used to be. And what we think in life, and I hope everybody gets this, we think the things we're most ashamed of, embarrassed by, our divorce, our bankruptcy, or maybe we've just always been average and ordinary. This disqualifies me from being successful and happy. What if that's not true? What if the hardest things of your life are the very things that qualify you? I'll give you an example. You know, my dad got sober. Somebody helped him. My dad was going to take his life or lose his family, and I didn't know who it was till months ago. Some precious human being whom I didn't know. In my dad's darkest hour of his life, Jay, said, I'll help you. I'll help you. Little did that person know, I'd be his son. And I'd help millions of people, and I'd be on Jay Shetty's show, and we both help millions of people. And the more ironic thing that this person helped my dad is what qualified them to help my dad. They were a drunk. They were an alcoholic. They at one time were a drug addict. They at one time were lying and stealing and living in the shadows. The very thing that person probably figured, that disqualifies me from having a successful life, was the one thing that did qualify them to help my dad. So if you're listening to this and you've had something you're ashamed of, or a failure or a setback, you're most qualified to help the people you used to be. And that person, that alcoholism they suffered with their drug addiction, helped my dad live those one more days forever. And then there's a purpose. And you know, if you can survive the temporary pain, pain in your life, and all pain is temporary. I watched my father pass away last year. He was in tremendous pain. Even our bodies are temporary. Only our souls are permanent. If you can survive the temporary, on the other side of temporary pain, you meet another version of yourself, another insight about yourself. And that's why it's so important to grow as a person, because the more we grow and become a new person, we can help those that used to be like us. And that's why you and I are so addicted to growing and learning, and we're curious, because if you used to be a broken person and you no longer are quite as broken, you can help broken people. If you used to be broke financially and you no longer are, you can help people. Whatever you do for a living, at one time you didn't know about it, and now you do. You can help those who need to know about it. And so you're immensely qualified if you understand the power of doing one more. It's great to have goals. You should have goals. I want to do this or that. But in the moment of execution, you have to separate from outcome in the moment that you're executing and just be present and exist. I talk about this in the book. Here's what I would say if you're going to win long term. 95% of people have an operating system in their mind where they operate out of history and memory. And about 5% of humans operate out of vision and imagination. So the reason we're so much happier, I believe, when we're children is we have no history and memory. So we operate out of imagination and dreams and vision. But at some age, some people it's 5 years old, some it's 8, some it's 18, some it's 28. They create a history. And that history then becomes the operating system. So even if they take on a new behavior or tactic, they're operating out of a pattern of thought and belief that's historic and memory-based. And so the number one thing I would say is begin to operate out of your imagination again, out of your vision again. Create from that place. If you create from that place, now you're not tied to the result in that moment. You're giving yourself space to imagine and create something new in your life. Hey, you're the product of who you hang around. Wow. How do I know if they serve me or not? Here's one way to just deduce this, because they could be beautiful people who care about you, and they might even support you. But when you're with them, what are you ever have those friends you're with them, you're like, you remember when, you remember that party, remember that thing? Yeah. And if your friends are constantly bringing you to the filtration system of memory and history all the time, think this through. How often are those friends saying, hey, what are you working on now? Where are you going? What's your vision? What do you want to create? And maybe that sounds hokey, but you and I have both our friends have the most amazing histories, and you can't get them to talk about them.
No.
You have to work, because what are they still doing?
Yeah.
They're talking about now and where they're going.
Yeah.
Their viewpoint in their life is being present and having a vision for the future.
Yeah.
A formula for misery, a formula for lack of creativity, lack of productivity, is constantly being history and memory.
Yeah.
Even if it's good, it doesn't serve us. And for most of us, it's not good, and we keep living from it or trying to move away from it. Create a new future. Don't move away from the past. Create a brilliant, imaginative, curious, vibrant vision for your life. And I was with my dad when he had 1 day left. I was with my dad when he had 1 hour left. I was with my dad when he had 1 breath left. And when we begin to think of our life that way, the power of right now and having 1 more moment and 1 more minute is so beautiful. It's so blessed. It's so big. It's so amazing. Why would we spend that minute in history? Why would we spend that minute in the past when we could be fully present and creating the future? And so, I think most people think, Jay, everyone else is going to die. I think they just, I'm not going to die. Or they go, I'll get around to being happy. I'll get around to making my masterpiece of my life. I'll get around to my dreams. I'm going to get around to fixing this relationship that's broken. I'm going to get around to feeling those emotions. And then it's another day and another day. And they keep it in the distance until there are no more days. And I don't care if you're 18 years old listening to this, 28 or 48. We don't know if we have 1 more day or 100 more days or 1,000 more days. But we know this, there'll eventually be a time where we don't have any more days. And so why would we spend the ones that are coming looking at the past? The first business I built was a financial business, and I had some success, Jay, like a lot of people do in life. And then it went backwards. And sometimes when you get up the flagpole just a little bit and you come back down, that's an emotional difficulty. It could be a relationship that was good that's gone, or maybe you saved some money, it's gone. Maybe you lost a bunch of weight and got fit and you gained it back. For me, it was my business. And I called my dad. He was a pretty wise guy now that he was sober. And because I could tell you, man, I'd do 1 more rep in the gym. I haven't done 10 reps on a bench press in 30 years. I've done 10 plus 1 more a lot though. I haven't done 45 minutes on a treadmill, but I've done 45 plus 1 more minute. 10 contacts a day? Never. 10 plus one more. But the biggest one more was actually something else. I called my dad and I said, hey, Dad, it's not going. The business is crashing. And I'm running out of money. Our power was turned off. Our water was turned off, Jay. I had to take my wife every morning. We'd lost our house. We're living in an apartment now. Then the water got turned off. You can't cook. You can't bathe. There was a apartment building. We had an outdoor shower at the swimming pool. And we were newlyweds, and I'd have to get up every morning, walk down there, and I'd hold a towel up while my wife took her shower every day outdoors and brushed her teeth. And then she'd switch and hold the towel up for me. And I'd walk back up to the apartment, and I was so emasculated, so ashamed, so embarrassed. And I was living a nightmare, selling a dream to everybody every day. We can do this. A lot of entrepreneurs, people can relate in their life. And anyway, I called my dad that night and I said, I think I need to pack it in. I need to go get a job and this success thing is not for people like us. And my dad goes, Eddie, you don't have to decide you're never gonna quit. He goes, just don't quit for one more day. See how you feel tomorrow. I go, Dad, he goes, just don't do it for one more day. And I got up the next day and I still wanted to quit, but not quite as much. And then I went one more day, and I found myself about 30 days later, I didn't want to quit anymore. And thank God the one more I did was I went one more day without quitting. And I'm so grateful I didn't quit on my dream.